Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the link between development of language and dyslexia. We're going to talk about how we as humans develop language, how this can affect people with dyslexia or how people's dyslexia can affect their language development. We're going to talk about a related language disorder that's related to dyslexia or can overlap with dyslexia called DLD. And then we're going to wrap up by talking about what should we do about it. Before we get into it all, I just want to ask you to please share this video or any other videos on PD360 that you find helpful with other parents who have kids with dyslexia and specific learning disability. Let's get the word out. Let's all learn as much as we can. Okay, let's get into it. It makes sense that spoken language and written language probably share parts of the brain, right? They're probably in similar areas. So it's not totally crazy to think there may be a link between delayed language development and dyslexia. But this is not to say that all people who have delayed language development have dyslexia or vice versa, that all dyslexics have had a problem with language development. But there's enough of an overlap that it's worth talking about. So let's start with, how do humans develop language? Because if we're going to understand the link between dyslexia and language development, we got to understand some basics. So first of all, humans develop language naturally. And if you remember from this video, from this other video, reading is not a natural human ability. It's something that has to be taught, but language is different. Language comes naturally. We already have the hardware built into our brain to acquire language. And there's basically two different kinds of language. There's expressive language, which is getting the words out, or receptive language, which is understanding what's being said to you. First words usually come about a year of age, and by the time children are 2 years old, they're starting to put words together in little sentences. Again, this can all happen pretty naturally. It does require parents to talk with their children and to expose them to language. And this is why we pediatricians always want you talking to your babies. But it doesn't require you literally teaching them how to talk. They figure it out. So where does this overlap between language development and maybe delayed language development and dyslexia come in? So in terms of how language delays and dyslexia might be linked, there's really two main ways. It could be that the way the dyslexic brain is naturally wired and networked, the acquisition of receptive and expressive language just takes longer to establish. So some examples of things you might notice in a dyslexic child who's had some delays in their language. You might notice that they start talking later than most kids. So again, the average age to start having some first words is about a year. So delayed would be onset of expressive language later than 18 months. They may have trouble retrieving the right word. So they seem to know what they want to say, but they kind of grab the wrong word out of their brain, or they just sort of give up and say they don't know. It could be that you see that they never really understood rhyming. And this can be a really good clue in preschool age children as to the possibility of dyslexia. And the last example is taking the sounds that are within the word, but kind of rearranging them. So, for example, the word car seat. If the child says it sarkeet, that's really adorable, right? In an 18-month-old or a 2-year-old. But that should stop happening before a child gets to kindergarten. And if you find that a child is sort of still just jumbling around the sounds that are within the word, so they have all the sounds, but they're kind of just rearranging them, that is something that sometimes a dyslexic brain will do. So these can all be early signs during the phase of language development that could point to the fact that you're dealing with a dyslexic brain. And this is some of the ways that a dyslexic brain could impact language development. The second way is something called Developmental Language Disorder, or DLD. So this is something that can run in families, can commonly overlap with dyslexia, similar to the ways I've mentioned that ADHD or other learning disabilities can overlap with dyslexia, like dysgraphia. DLD also does show some overlap with dyslexia, either within individuals or within families. DLD is a communication disorder that affects the ability to learn, understand, and use language that starts in early childhood, but it persists all the way into adulthood. So then getting into the why. Why does this happen? So DLD, that just happens, right? I said it runs in families. The other piece, the why does the dyslexic brain struggle in the ways I listed before, has to do with phonologic awareness. So the dyslexic brain just has trouble picking out sometimes the subtlety of what's being spoken to them. So for example, if they hear the word cat, but they don't clearly discern the k, a, t in cat, then when it comes to reading and spelling those words, it's going to be really challenging. I want to kick my past self for the number of times that I said to my 5 and 6-year-old daughter, come on, just sound it out. Just sound it out. And she must have thought I was crazy. She probably had absolutely no idea what I was trying to say because she didn't discern those sounds when she heard the word cat. So for me to say this whole, come on, sound it out, it was futile. It was futile, and I'm sure it was very frustrating to her. So this phonologic awareness of language translates over to the phonemic awareness of reading, right? Remember, we have to translate those sounds of language into symbols, and then we have to be aware that those symbols represent sounds. Reading is so complicated. So this link between language development and dyslexia and future reading and writing is clearly really important. But what can we do about it? That's when maybe we have to start to think about a referral to a speech-language pathologist, an SLP. An SLP is someone who could work with somebody with DLD, Developmental Language Disorder, or could work with a preschooler or a young school-age student who is struggling with phonologic awareness. They're just not registering those sounds in spoken language. They can also help lay the groundwork for phonemic awareness. So they could be a really key member of your team. So how do you get connected with an SLP? Essentially, if you at any point have any concerns about the way your child is developing language from infancy all the way up, you should talk to your child's pediatrician. That's what we do. And we know the speech-language pathologists in our area who see children. So you would talk to your pediatrician about a referral. If your child is older, like they're already in school, definitely still talk to your pediatrician, but it's also worth talking to your child's school because most schools have an SLP that they work with and potentially could get you hooked in themselves. So that was a little bit of brain science. We had to sort of think a little bit about how we learn language. We had to throw around words like phonology and phonemic awareness. But I think you all are starting to get the hang of it, hopefully. If you want to just go back and review some of the basics, I do have the video about sort of basic neuroscience, basic brain science of dyslexia, and I'll be sure I link that in the description box below. If you want, you can watch that and then come back and watch this one, and maybe it'll help it make a little more sense. All right, you guys know where you can find me. If you want to read the full blog on this topic, then you can go over to the website, parentingdyslexia360/blog, and find it there. If you want to connect with me, you just comment down below. Let's get into a conversation about dyslexia, language development. I want to hear what you think about it. Are you just more confused now? Because I'd be happy to make another video and we can clear everything up. All right, be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, share it with others, click the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. Well, okay. Subscribe first, then click the bell, and then you'll get notified of the new videos. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.